Imagine three guys, same neighborhood, same income, same age, same starting weight, best friends since high school. The first guy changes nothing. The second guy cuts 125 calories a day, about 1 cup of cereal less, mustard instead of mayo. He starts reading 10 pages of a book at night. The third guy adds 125 calories, a slightly bigger dinner, 1 more drink on the weekend. 5 months later, no difference. You could not tell them apart in a photograph. But 31 months later, the third guy is 67 pounds heavier than the second. His marriage is falling apart. He hates his job. The second guy got promoted, lost 33 pounds, and is in the best shape of his life. And the first guy, he is exactly where he started, just more bitter about it. Same neighborhood, same starting line, same 2.5 years. And the only thing that separated them was a cup of cereal. Over the next hour or so, I'm going to walk you through the most important book ever written about why your life looks the way it does, and why most of what you think you know about success is a lie. The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Hardy was the publisher of Success magazine. He sat in the chair once held by Napoleon Hill, by W. Clement Stone, by the giants of the personal development industry. He spent 20 years interviewing the most successful people alive, billionaires, Olympic champions, world-class CEOs, and extracting what actually worked. And what he found was almost insulting in its simplicity. There is no secret. There is no shortcut. There is no hack. There is no morning routine you can copy from a billionaire that will make you a billionaire. There is only one force, and it is working in your life right now, whether you know it or not, either building you up or quietly grinding you down. The question is not whether the compound effect is operating in your life. It is. The only question is which direction. So let me show you how it works. Chapter 1. The compound effect itself. Let me give you a choice. You can take $3 million in cash, right now, no strings attached. Or you can take a single penny that doubles in value every day for 31 days. Just 1 penny, doubling for 1 month. Which one would you pick? Most people grab the cash. Of course they do. It's $3 million sitting in front of them versus this dinky little penny that everyone knows isn't going to amount to much. Let's see how that decision plays out. Day 5. Your friend who took the penny has 16 cents. You're sitting on 3 million. Day 10, she has $5.12. You're still sitting on 3 million, having the time of your life. Day 20, she has $5,243. After 20 full days of patience and discipline, she has barely the price of a used car. You're laughing. Day 29, you still have 3 million. She has 2.7 million. She's behind. You won. But here's where it gets interesting. Day 30, she pulls ahead with 5.3 million. And then on day 31, the very last day of this 31-day race, that penny is worth $10,737,418.24. 3 times what you have. That is the compound effect. And the reason almost nobody chooses the penny is because we cannot see the invisible math. We see day 5, day 10, day 20, and we think nothing is happening. We see the cash. The cash is obvious. The cash is real. The penny looks like a joke, but the penny is not a joke. The penny is the entire secret of everything that has ever mattered in your life. Now let me give you the version that actually applies to your daily existence, because you are probably not going to get offered a magic doubling penny anytime soon. Go back to those 3 friends, Larry, Scott, and Brad, all earning around $50,000 a year, all married, all carrying a little of that married guy weight that shows up after a few years. Larry does what Larry always does. Nothing changes. He's not unhappy exactly. He just kind of complains sometimes that nothing in his life ever moves. Scott reads an interview with Dr. Mehmet Oz and picks one idea. He's going to cut 125 calories a day. That's it. 1 cup of cereal less in the morning. mustard instead of mayo on his lunch sandwich, seltzer instead of soda. He also starts walking maybe an extra mile a day, and he reads 10 pages of a good book before bed. That is the entire program. No gym membership, no trainer, no transformation challenge, no public declaration. Just 5 small things every day. Brad goes the other direction. He buys a new big screen. He starts trying recipes off the Food Channel, the cheesy casseroles, the desserts. He puts in a bar in the family room and adds 1 extra drink to his week. Nothing crazy. Brad just wants to have a little more fun. 5 months go by. If you lined these 3 guys up against a wall and took a photograph, you would not be able to tell who was who. Their weights would be within a rounding error of 0. Scott has read maybe 150 pages of a book. Big deal. Brad has eaten some pretty good casseroles. Larry is still Larry. 10 months. Still nothing visible. You'd swear the whole experiment was a waste. 18 months. Now if you look closely, really closely, you can start to see something. Scott looks a little leaner. Brad looks a little softer. But you'd have to be paying attention. Then month 25. Then month 27. Then month 31. Brad is now 67 pounds heavier than Scott. 67 pounds. Same starting weight. 125 calories a day. But it doesn't stop at the waistline. Scott has now put in almost 1,000 hours of reading and listening to instructional content. He's applied what he learned at work. He got a promotion. His marriage is thriving because the guy who reads books about being a better version of himself tends to become a better version of himself. And Brad's marriage is on the rocks. His boss is giving him bad performance reviews. He's exhausted all the time because he's not sleeping well, because he's eating heavy food late at night, and the lack of energy means he doesn't go on the walks with his wife he used to take, so she feels distant. So she pours her energy into work and friends, so men start flirting with her at the office. And Brad, who has no idea his own choices created any of this, starts to suspect his wife is the problem. He has no idea. He genuinely has no idea. Because the food was so good, and the calorie count was so small, and the drinks were just a little fun. And how could something that small possibly be the thing that wrecked his whole life? But it did. And Larry, our friend who changed nothing? Larry is exactly where he was 31 months ago. The world moved around him. He didn't. So why are we so bad at this? Why does the human brain refuse to believe in compounding until it's too late? Hardy's answer is simple. We have been trained by an entire culture of marketing to believe in the wrong story. We believe in the lottery winner, not the millions of losers. We believe in the before and after photo, not the 18 months between them. We believe in the overnight success, not the 7 years of unseen work that came before the overnight. We have been sold a version of reality that does not exist, and we keep waiting for our turn at it. Meanwhile, the real force, the one that is actually shaping our lives, runs silently in the background, day after day, year after year, building or destroying us by inches we never notice, until the day we finally do. Chapter 2. The Power of Choice. When Darren Hardy was in his early 20s, he was making serious money selling real estate in California. Cash was flying in. Life felt easy. Then one afternoon, he sat down with his accountant. "You owe over $100,000 in taxes," the accountant said. Hardy was stunned. 100,000. He didn't have that kind of money sitting around. He had been spending it. On what exactly? He couldn't have told you. Restaurants, clothes, toys, stuff. The money had passed through his hands like water. His accountant looked him dead in the eyes. "Son, you're spending money like a drunken fool, and you don't even know how to account for it. That's stupid. Stop it. You are now seriously in the hole. You're going to have to earn more money that you'll owe more taxes on just to pay off the taxes you already owe. Keep this up and you'll dig your financial grave with your own wallet. And then the accountant gave him an instruction so simple, it sounded almost insulting. He told him to carry a small notebook in his back pocket for 30 days. Every single cent he spent, write it down. The $1,000 suit, the 50 cents of air for his tires, all of it. Hardy did it, and the first thing that happened was he stopped buying things. Not because he decided to be disciplined, because he couldn't be bothered to take out the notebook and write it down. The act of having to record the choice forced him to face the choice, and when he had to face it, he made a different one. Within 30 days, his entire financial life had changed. Not because he learned a new strategy, not because he found a new investment, but because for the first time in his life, he was awake. So here is the question I want you to sit with for a moment. What in your life, right now, are you sleepwalking through? What are the small, daily, invisible choices you are making without choosing that are quietly compounding into the life you're going to be stuck with in 5 years? Because that's Hardy's whole point in this chapter. Your problem is not that you keep making bad choices. Bad choices on purpose would be easy to fix. Your problem is that you are making choices you don't even know you're making. The second slice of cheese, the third hour of Netflix, the $50 at Costco for something you didn't need, the text to your wife that you didn't send because you were tired. You did not vote on any of those things. They voted for you. There's a moment in the book where Hardy makes a calculation that I want you to feel in your bones. He asks, what does that $4 coffee you grab on your way to work every morning actually cost you? Most people would say $4. Some would say, well, $20 a week. Maybe $1,000 a year if you're being honest. Fine, but what if you took that $4 every workday and invested it at 8%? In 20 years, that daily coffee is worth $51,833.79. Your morning coffee is costing you a Mercedes-Benz. Hardy puts it this way: every dollar you spend today, at any age younger than retirement, is actually costing you about 5 future dollars. So when you look at the price tag of something for $50 and tell yourself, well, it's only $50, you're lying. You're not spending $50. You are removing 250 future dollars from the bank account of the older version of yourself who might really need it. Is this dramatic? Yes. Is it also true? Also yes. And here is where Hardy introduces the idea that I think changed his life and could change yours. The idea of 100% responsibility. When Hardy was 18, he went to a seminar where the speaker asked the room a simple question. What percentage of responsibility do you have in making a relationship work? Hands shot up. 50-50, someone yelled. 51-49, said someone else. 80-20, the speaker walked to the easel and wrote, in big black letters, 100-0. You take 100% responsibility with zero expectation of receiving anything back. Only then will the relationship work. Anything less, and you have left it to chance. 18-year-old Hardy felt something crack open. Because if that was true about relationships, it was true about everything. His income, his health, his career, every result in his life was, on some level, his. Now I know what you're thinking. Wait, what about the things that genuinely aren't my fault? What about the bad boss, the recession, the traffic, the illness? And Hardy's answer is, yes, those things happen to you, but how you respond to them is still yours. The traffic made you late. Maybe you should have left earlier. Your coworker botched the presentation. You should have double-checked it. Your kid is impossible. There are 100 books on how to deal with that. He's not saying you control what happens to you. He is saying you control everything that happens after. A few years after that seminar, Hardy got burned. He invested over $330,000 into a business partnership. He worked tirelessly on it for nearly 2 years, and then he discovered that his partner had mismanaged and squandered every single dollar of the cash. $330,000 gone. He could have sued. He could have spent the next 5 years in court, burning his life down trying to get even. Most people would have. Instead, he wrote it off as 100% his fault. Not because his partner didn't deserve blame. His partner clearly did. But because Hardy had failed to do his due diligence. He had ignored red flags. He had been lazy with the finances. He had agreed to the partnership without checking the man's character. And so he owned it, learned from it, and walked away. He even later loaned the guy more money for a personal situation. That's how completely Hardy had let it go. And here's the lesson from that story that I want you to take with you. The day you stop blaming anyone, anything, the economy, your parents, your ex, your boss, the world, the day you stop blaming is the day your real power turns on. Because as long as the problem is out there, the solution is out there too. And you cannot reach the solution, but the moment you decide the problem is inside you, the solution is also inside you, and that you can reach. So what do you do with this idea? Hardy gives one answer, and it's the same answer his accountant gave him at 23. You track. He doesn't mean track in a complicated way. He means pick one area of your life you want to change. Get a small notebook and write down every single thing you do in that area for 1 week. If it's money, write down every dollar. If it's food, write down every bite. If it's time, write down every hour. The goal is not the notebook. The goal is the awareness, because you cannot manage what you don't measure, and you cannot change what you don't see. And right now, most of your life is invisible to you. There was a moment in his career when Hardy was mentoring an executive who ran a $100 million company. The guy felt his organization was lacking energy and trust. Hardy asked him to track one tiny thing, 3 times a week, walk around the building, find 3 people doing something well, tell them personally, less than an hour a week. That was the whole intervention. 18 months later, that company's profits had grown by more than 30%. Same staff, same product, 0 additional marketing spend. The CEO had simply made himself visible. And then a ripple started. One tiny tracked behavior, 30% more profit. Hardy tells another story about a woman named Kathleen who worked for him years ago. She made $40,000 a year and was convinced she couldn't save a penny. Hardy challenged her to save not 10%, not even 5%, but 1%, $33 a month. She did it by bringing her own lunch 1 day a week. The next month, 2%. She changed her cable plan, then 3%. She started making coffee at home. By the end of the year, Kathleen was saving 10% of every dollar she earned and barely noticed it. But here's the part that mattered. That one tiny discipline started rippling. She stopped wasting money on junk entertainment and started buying books and audio courses. Within months, her creativity exploded. She started bringing Hardy ideas, strategies to save the company money, strategies to make new money, and he paid her a percentage of every one that worked. 2 years later, she was earning over $100,000 a year on a $40,000 base salary. Eventually, she started her own business. The last time Hardy ran into her, she was a millionaire, all from a choice to track $33 a month. That is the power of choice when you are finally awake to it. Chapter 3. Habits and Why Power. There is an old parable Hardy opens this chapter with, and I want you to picture it with me. A wise old teacher is walking through a forest with a young student. He stops in front of a tiny sapling, a little sprout barely poking out of the dirt. "Pull it up," he tells the boy. The boy reaches down and pulls it out with 2 fingers. Easy. They walk a little further. The teacher points to a slightly bigger sapling about knee-high. "Now pull that one." The boy grabs it with both hands, yanks, and out it comes. A little harder, but still easy. They walk further. The teacher points to a young evergreen, taller than the boy himself. The boy works at it. He strains. He finds a stick to pry up the roots. He uses a rock for leverage. Finally, sweating and exhausted, he tears it out of the ground. Then the teacher turns to a mighty oak, a tree so tall the boy can't even see the top of it. "Now," the old man says, "pull that one up." And the boy looks up at this enormous tree, looks at his own hands, and quietly says, "I'm sorry, teacher, I can't." "My son," the teacher says, "you have just demonstrated the power that habits will have over your life. The older they are, the bigger they get. The deeper the roots go, the harder they are to uproot. Some get so big, with roots so deep, you might hesitate to even try. That is your relationship with your habits right now. Whatever you are doing today, on autopilot, without thinking, that is either a tiny sapling you can pull out with your fingers, or it is a mighty oak that is going to require everything you have. The question is, which one are you dealing with? And the more important question, what are you going to do about it? Here is a statistic that should disturb you. According to psychological research, 95% of everything you feel, think, do, and achieve is the result of a learned habit. 95%. You are not making most of your decisions. You are running a program that was installed in you by your parents, by your environment, by your culture, by the random accidents of your childhood, and it is running you every single day while you are barely aware of it. There's a great line Hardy quotes about this. There is a story of a man riding a horse, galloping quickly down a road. A bystander shouts, "Where are you going?" And the rider yells back, "I don't know, ask the horse." That is most people's lives. They are on the horse of their habits, and they have no idea where they're headed. The horse knows, they don't. So how do you take the reins? Hardy says the first thing you have to understand is that willpower is not going to save you. If you have ever set a New Year's resolution and watched it collapse by February, and you have, then you know this already. Willpower is what you use when you don't have a strong enough reason. And what you need instead is what Hardy calls why power. Let me give you the picture he uses, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Imagine I lay a wooden plank on the ground, 30 feet long, 10 inches wide. I tell you, walk across this plank, and I'll give you $20. Would you do it? Of course you would. $20 for a 30-second walk. Now imagine I take that exact same plank and lay it between the rooftops of 200-story buildings. Same plank, same length, same width, same $20 on the other side. Would you walk it now? No, not for $20, not for 20,000, not for 20 million. You'd look at me like I was insane. But what if I told you your child was on the other building and it was on fire? Would you walk it? Without hesitation, without negotiation, without thinking about it for half a second. You would be across that plank before I finished the sentence. The plank didn't change. The wind didn't change. The fall didn't change. The risk is exactly the same. The only thing that changed was your why. So when you tell yourself you don't have the willpower to lose the weight, or save the money, or build the business, that is not the truth. The truth is your why isn't big enough yet. You haven't yet found the burning building. Hardy spends a lot of this chapter helping you find yours. He says your why power comes from your core values, the things you stand for, the version of yourself you want to be, the people you love, the legacy you want to leave, not the surface stuff, not "I want a six-pack." That's not a why, that's a wish. The real why is the thing you'd walk a plank between two burning buildings for. And until you find that, you will keep starting over every January and quitting every March. He shares a story about his friend Pete Carroll, the football coach who eventually won a Super Bowl. Carroll grew up small. The other kids dismissed him, and he spent his entire childhood quietly furious, knowing he was better than people thought, needing to prove it. That anger became his fuel for 40 years. He shares another one about Anthony Hopkins, the actor. Hopkins was a terrible student. He had undiagnosed dyslexia and ADHD before those diagnoses existed. He grew up labeled the problem child while all his cousins were brilliant. And he turned that resentment into one of the most decorated acting careers in film history. Hardy's point isn't that your why has to be noble. It doesn't. Your why can be, I want to prove the people who doubted me wrong. I want to be the one person in my family who breaks the cycle. I want my kids to have what I never had. Whatever it is, it just has to be real. It just has to be yours. Now, once you have your why, Hardy moves into the actual mechanics of changing habits. And here's where I want to slow down, because this is the most practical part of the whole book. He gives you a metaphor that I keep coming back to. Imagine a plane taking off from Los Angeles, heading to New York. If the nose of that plane is pointed just 1 degree off course, 1 degree almost invisible on the tarmac, by the time it crosses the country, the plane will be 150 miles from where it was supposed to land. It'll come down in Albany or Dover, Delaware, not New York City. 1 degree, that is your habits. A single small habit, repeated daily, that doesn't even feel like it matters. Over the course of years, it lands you in a completely different life than the one you planned. Sometimes a better one, usually a worse one, almost never the one you intended. So Hardy gives you a few strategies for changing the trajectory. I want to walk through 3 of them that I think matter most. The first is identify your triggers. Most bad habits aren't random. They're triggered by a person, by a time of day, by an emotion, by a place. You're never going to stop eating junk food until you know that it happens, specifically when you walk into your kitchen at 10 p.m. after a stressful day. Once you know the trigger, you can interrupt it. Without the trigger, you're swinging at a ghost. The second strategy is clean house. Literally, if you want to stop drinking, get every bottle out of your house. If you want to stop eating sugar, throw out the cereal, the cookies, the ice cream. Do not test your willpower at midnight. Willpower at midnight is how every diet has ever died. Remove the option. Don't fight the urge. Eliminate the choice. And the third is swap, don't subtract. Hardy interviewed Montel Williams about the strict diet he keeps for his multiple sclerosis, and Montel told him something that stuck. The whole game, he said, is not what you take out of your life. It's what you put in instead. Don't think about the burger you can't have. Think about the salad you get to have. Don't think about the TV you're giving up. Think about the hour with your kids you're getting back. Your brain cannot focus on absence. It can only focus on presence. So fill the space before the bad habit comes back to claim it. And then there's one more idea Hardy adds that I love, because it cuts against the way most self-help books talk about willpower and discipline. He says, make it public. He once helped a coworker named Zelda quit smoking. He stood up in front of the entire office and announced, Zelda is quitting today. He put a giant wall calendar outside her cubicle. Every day she didn't smoke, she drew a big red X, and pretty soon the whole office was rooting for her, cheering when the X went up, asking how she was doing. Zelda did not want to quit on that calendar. She did not want to quit on her coworkers. She did not want to quit on herself in front of an audience. And she didn't. She quit smoking, and she stayed quit. What Zelda figured out, what Hardy figured out, is that the human ego is sometimes more powerful than the human will. If your willpower is failing you, recruit your pride, tell everyone. Make the cost of quitting embarrassing. Make the reward of finishing public.
You don't have to be strong alone. That was never the deal.
And that single realization, that your habits are not your character, they're a program you can rewrite, changes everything that comes after. Chapter 4. Momentum. Hardy wants you to meet a friend of his, a close friend, also a close friend of Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, and every other person who has ever achieved anything extraordinary. He calls this friend Big Mo. Big Mo is momentum, and once you understand how it actually works, you will never look at success or your own inconsistency the same way again. Picture a merry-go-round. The the kind that was in every playground when we were kids, before playgrounds got safe. There's a bunch of children piled onto it, weighing it down, screaming at you to push faster. You grab the bar and you pull, nothing moves. You throw your whole body into it. 1 inch, 2 inches. Your legs are burning, your friends are laughing because you look ridiculous. You pull harder, 3 inches, and then, slowly, something starts to happen. The thing starts to move. You're still working hard, but it's catching. You break into a jog, you're keeping pace now, then a run, you're flying alongside it, and finally, you jump on, and the wind hits your face, and the whole world becomes a smear of colors, and you didn't have to push anymore because the thing is doing the work for you. That is Big Mo, and here's the part Hardy wants you to understand. That moment when the merry-go-round was almost impossible to move, that wasn't a sign you were failing. That was the price of admission. That was always going to happen. The reason most people never feel momentum in their lives is not because they can't push hard enough. It's because they stop pushing 10 seconds before the thing starts to move. So how do you actually get Mo on your side? Hardy says it comes down to routines and rhythms, specifically what he calls bookending your day, controlling how the day starts and how the day ends. Because in between, life is chaos. Phones ring, emails pour in, your boss has an emergency, your kid throws up at school. You can't control the middle of the day, but you can almost always control the bookends. He walks you through his own morning, and I want to share it because it's not what you'd expect from a productivity book. His alarm goes off at 5 a.m. He hits snooze, and for the next 8 minutes, while most of us are scrolling through our phones or trying to fall back asleep, he does 3 things in bed. First, he thinks of everything he's grateful for. Not as a checklist, as a feeling. He attunes his mind to abundance before his feet ever hit the floor, because the world responds completely differently to a person who starts the day grateful versus a person who starts the day already irritated about the meeting at 10. Second, and this one is a little unusual, he sends love to someone. He picks a person, a friend, a relative, a stranger from the supermarket, and he imagines in his mind everything he wishes and hopes for them. A blessing, a mental love letter. The way to get love in your own life, he says, is to give it. So he gives it before anyone has even asked for it. Third, he thinks about his #1 goal, and he picks 3 things he's going to do that day to move closer to it. Not 10, not the whole list. 3. The things that will actually matter when he looks back. 8 minutes before the world has touched him. Then he gets up, pours coffee, stretches for 10 minutes while it brews, sits in his recliner for 30 minutes and reads something inspirational, then works on his single most important project for an hour. And notice, he hasn't opened his email yet. Email is the moment the world takes you hostage. He doesn't surrender the morning to other people's priorities. By the time most people are still trying to remember where they left their keys, Hardy has done his hardest thinking of the day, in silence, on his own terms. And that is the entire game. Not a hack, not a trick, a routine, repeated daily until it stops requiring willpower, because it has become identity. The same thing applies to evenings. He ends every day by reviewing it. What went well? What got moved to tomorrow? What insights came up that he wants to remember? He logs ideas in a journal. He has more than 40 of those journals now, full of decades of compounding wisdom. And then he reads 10 pages of something inspirational before sleeping, because he knows the last thing the mind consumes before bed is what it processes overnight. All hell can break loose in the middle of the day, but because he controls the bookends, he always starts strong and finishes strong, and the middle eventually sorts itself out. Now here's the part of this chapter that I want you to really sit with, because it might be the most important warning in the entire book. Hardy tells the story of a hand-pumped water well. You know, the old kind? A metal lever sticking up out of the ground, connected to a pipe that goes down to the water table. To get water out, you have to grab the lever and pump hard. And here's what happens. You pump and you pump and you pump. And for a long time, nothing comes out. No water, just the sound of the lever moving. Most people quit right here. They look at the dry spout, decide the well is broken, and walk away. They never realize they were 30 pumps from water. The people who keep going eventually see a few drops, and a lot of them quit too. Because all this work and what, a few drops? But the ones who keep pumping past that, they get a stream, a full, steady stream of water. And here's the miracle. Once the water is flowing, you don't have to pump hard anymore. Just steady, light, easy. The system is doing the work now because momentum has taken over. But, and this is the warning, if you walk away from that lever for too long, the water falls back down the pipe, and the next time you come back, you have to pump like crazy all over again, from zero. That is what most people do with every important thing in their lives. They start a workout routine. Pump, pump. They see a little progress. They take a vacation. They come back, can't find the motivation again, and quit. They start a new business. Pump, pump. They get their first customers. They get comfortable. They stop hustling. The momentum dies. They start a relationship. Date nights every Friday, real connection. Then it slides. Then it's Netflix and silence on the couch. And every time they have to start over, they have to pump twice as hard to get back to where they already were. Most people never make it back. That's not because they're lazy. It's because they didn't understand what they were giving up when they let go of the lever. The cost of inconsistency isn't the 2 weeks you missed at the gym. The cost is the momentum you killed. And momentum, once dead, is not free to revive. That's why the tortoise wins. Not because the tortoise is faster, because the tortoise never stops pumping. Chapter 5. Influences. I want you to picture a glass of water on a table in front of you. The glass is perfectly clean. The water inside is clear, pure, drinkable. And now imagine someone walks over and drops a single eyedropper of mud into that glass. Just a drop. Almost nothing. Is the water still clean? You wouldn't drink it. Of course you wouldn't. One drop of dirt has compromised the whole thing. Now imagine that glass is your mind, and every news headline, every doom scroll, every sensational story about a tragedy on the other side of the world, every celebrity meltdown, every political rant, every advertisement designed to make you feel inadequate so you'll buy something. Every single one of those is a drop of mud falling into the glass of your mind. And the glass is open all day, every day. The drops keep falling, hour after hour, year after year. What do you think the water looks like by now? Hardy calls this input, the information you feed your mind. And he says most people are in complete denial about how much of what they think, feel, and create is being shaped by the garbage flowing into them without their permission. Here's a fact that should make you put down whatever you're holding. The average American spends 1,704 hours watching television every year. That averages out to 4.7 hours a day, nearly 30% of our waking hours, the equivalent of 2 full months out of every 12. 2 months, watching other people live while your own life sits on pause. And that's before we add in social media, before news apps, before the podcasts you put on at the gym that are actually 3 angry men yelling about a country falling apart, before the doom scrolling at red lights. Your brain is not built to filter this. Your brain is built for one thing: survival. It is hardwired to scan for threat, for lack, for danger. So when you turn on the news and hear about a robbery, a fire, a crash, a political disaster, your brain lights up like a Christmas tree. It now has a feast to chew on, and it will chew on it all day while you try to focus at work, while you try to be present with your kids, while you try to fall asleep. You think you're consuming the news. The news is consuming you. So what's the answer? Hardy is clear about this. and a little extreme by his own admission. He doesn't watch the news. He doesn't read newspapers. He doesn't subscribe to news magazines. He says 99% of the news has zero bearing on his personal goals or daily life. So why would he flood his mind with it? He sets up a few RSS feeds for the specific information that actually matters to his business and his interests. He reviews them in 15 minutes a day. That's it. Everything else he treats as poison. And in the space where the news used to live, he fills his mind with clean water. Inspirational books in the morning. Instructional audio in the car. He calls his commute drive time university. 300 hours a year of focused learning just from the time you were going to spend in the car anyway. Brian Tracy once told him that listening to audio programs in your car is the equivalent of 2 semesters of an advanced college degree every single year. Same drive, same hour, completely different person at the end of the decade. But input is only the first of 3 influences Hardy says are shaping you right now, whether you notice or not. The second one is the one nobody wants to hear: your associations, the people you spend the most time with. There's an old idea, often credited to Jim Rohn, that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Your average income, your average attitude, your average health, your average ambition. You don't decide to become like them. You don't sign a contract. It just happens, because their habits become your habits by osmosis. Hardy puts it this way: the influence of the people around you isn't a shove, it's a current. It's like sitting on an inner tube in the ocean. You feel like you're floating in place. You're not paddling. You're not moving. And then you look up and realize the current has carried you half a mile down the shore. That is the people in your life, quietly carrying you in a direction you never agreed to. So Hardy gives you a hard exercise. Write down the names of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Look at them honestly. What is their average income, their average health, their average marriage, their average ambition, their average attitude about the world? Because whatever that average is, that's the gravitational pull on your life right now. And it is winning. It is always winning. Because you spend more time with them than you do thinking about your goals. And then he gives you a framework that I love, because it gives you something to actually do about it. He says, sort the people in your life into 3 categories. The first category, dissociations. People you need to walk away from completely. Not because they're bad people. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but they are poisoning your direction. And no amount of love is going to change that. There are some people you cannot have in your life if you are serious about becoming the next version of yourself. Hardy says he's constantly weeding these people out. And he says, when you start doing this, they will fight you, especially the ones closest to you, because your decision to grow holds a mirror up to their own choices, and that mirror is painful. The second category, limited associations. People you can be around in small doses, but not large ones. Hardy puts it like this: there are 3-minute friends, people you can chat with at the mailbox, no problem. There are 3-hour friends. You can grab dinner, you have a good time, but you wouldn't want a weekend together. And there are 3-day friends, people you can travel with, hike with, live with. The mistake most people make is spending 3 hours with a 3-minute person, and then wondering why they leave the encounter feeling drained. The third category, expanded associations. The people you need more of, the mentors, the peak performers, the ones who are where you want to be. Here's the line that changed how I think about mentorship. Hardy says, you do not have to know your mentors personally. He spent more than 1,000 hours being mentored by Jim Rohn, and 99% of those hours were through books and audio recordings. Jim Rohn shaped his entire worldview. They had dinner together a few times. That was it. So if you don't have a billionaire on speed dial, fine. That billionaire wrote a book. Read it, listen to a podcast, listen to it, did 100 interviews, watch them. You have access to the greatest minds who have ever lived, sitting in your phone right now for free. The only question is whether you'll let them in. You can change who you become, by changing whose voices are in your head. And then there's the third influence, environment, where you physically are, what you see when you look out the window, the chairs you sit in, the neighborhood you live in. Hardy tells a story from when he was selling real estate in his 20s. He was working in a modest part of the East Bay outside San Francisco. He kept seeing the same kinds of people, the same kinds of houses, the same kinds of conversations, and he started to feel his own ambition shrinking to fit the room. So he started driving across the bay every Sunday to a wealthy little town called Tiburon. He had no business there. He didn't know anyone. He'd just go eat at a seafood restaurant on the wharf and look up at the multi-million-dollar houses hanging off the cliffs. One house in particular always caught his eye. A bright blue 4-story home with a whale lightning rod on top. He didn't know who lived there. He didn't know what they did. He just knew that house was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen, and he wanted it. Years later, he was driving home from brunch and saw an open house sign. He followed it, zigzagging up the cliffs. He walked through the front door and realized he was inside the blue house, the exact one, the one he'd been staring at from the wharf for years. He signed the contract that day. Now, was the blue house magic? No, but the environment Hardy chose to put himself in, every Sunday for years, expanded his sense of what was possible. It stretched the size of his dream, and then his behavior followed his dream, and then his results followed his behavior. Hardy's larger point is this: the dream in your heart is often bigger than the environment you're currently sitting in, and if you stay rooted in that environment too long, your dream will shrink to match it, like a sapling in a pot that becomes root-bound and stops growing. The sapling isn't broken, the pot is just too small. So what is the pot you're currently sitting in? And is it big enough for what you're trying to become? Because here is the hard truth that ends this chapter. You get in life what you tolerate. If you tolerate disrespect, you'll be disrespected. If you tolerate being underpaid, you'll keep being underpaid. If you tolerate your body being tired and sick and out of shape, that's the body you'll have. Life organizes itself around the standards you set for yourself. Raise the standard, and the world reorganizes around you, but you have to raise it first. Chapter 6. Acceleration. On October 30th, 1974, in Kinshasa, Zaire, Muhammad Ali stepped into a ring with George Foreman in what would later be called the Rumble in the Jungle. Almost nobody thought Ali had a chance. Foreman was younger, stronger. He had knocked out Joe Frazier in 2 rounds. He had knocked out Ken Norton in 2 rounds. Both men had beaten Ali. Foreman was the most feared puncher on the planet, and the betting line reflected it. But Ali had a strategy. He had studied Foreman, and he had noticed one weakness. Foreman had incredible power, but limited stamina. If Ali could get him to throw a lot of punches early, Foreman would gas out by the middle rounds. So Ali did something nobody had ever seen in a heavyweight championship fight. He leaned against the ropes, he covered his face, and he let Foreman hit him for 7 full rounds. Foreman threw everything he had: body shots, head shots, combinations, hundreds of punches. Ali just absorbed them. He'd whisper to Foreman between rounds, "Is that all you got, George? Is that the best you've got?" And by the 8th round, George Foreman, the most feared puncher in the world, was exhausted. His arms were dead. His legs were heavy. He'd hit his wall. And that's when Ali came off the ropes and dropped him with one combination at center ring. Ali didn't win because he was stronger. He won because he understood that the moment Foreman hit the wall, the moment Foreman thought he was finishing the job, that was actually the moment Foreman was finished. And this is the central idea of the final chapter of the book. Hardy calls them moments of truth. Those moments in life when you've already done the work, you're already exhausted, you've already hit your limit, and there is still a little further to go. What do you do in that moment? Because here's what Hardy figured out from interviewing hundreds of high performers. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is almost never talent. It is almost never luck. It is almost never some advantage you don't have. It is what they do at the wall. If you're lifting weights and the program calls for 12 reps, 12 is fine. 12 will get you somewhere. But the 3 to 5 reps you do after 12, when your muscles are screaming and you want to put the bar down, those 3 reps are worth more than the 12 combined, because those are the reps that grow you. The 12 only got you to the wall. The growth happens beyond it. Same with running, same with sales calls, same with writing, same with parenting, same with your marriage. The first 12 reps of any effort get you to average. The reps after are where the multiplying happens. And then Hardy gives you a second move that comes after the wall, the wow-oh factor. Doing more than people expect. He calls this going for wow-oh. You probably remember the moment Oprah opened her 19th season. 11 audience members had been pre-selected because they desperately needed a new car. Oprah brought them on stage one by one and gave each of them a brand new Pontiac. The audience cheered. 11 brand new cars. Already incredible. Already a story they'd tell for the rest of their lives. But then Oprah looked at the rest of the audience. Hundreds of people who hadn't been called up. She told them, "One of you also has a key. One of you is going home with the 12th car." She handed out gift boxes. "Reach in and look at your key," she said. Every single person in that audience had a key. Every single person. She screamed it. Everybody gets a car. Everybody gets a car. That moment was 20 years ago. You still remember it. That is the wow factor. Doing the expected thing. 11 cars for 11 people is generous. It's wonderful. It's already more than most people would do, but it doesn't make the news. It doesn't get talked about 20 years later. The extra mile is what does. The unexpected detail. Hardy talks about how he proposed to his wife Georgia. He could have done the expected thing, taken her father out to dinner, asked for her hand. That would have been respectful. Standard, fine. Instead, he learned a speech in Portuguese. Georgia's father spoke English well enough, but Portuguese was his first language, and Hardy wanted him to feel honored. So he got Georgia's sister to translate the speech, drove from San Diego to Los Angeles rehearsing the words the whole way, walked into the house with flowers, and delivered his memorized speech in his father-in-law's native tongue. And then he didn't stop. He called every single one of Georgia's 5 brothers and asked each of them for their blessing too. Some said yes immediately, others made him earn it, but every brother got a call. Georgia told him later that was the part of the proposal that meant the most to her. Not the ring, not the speech, the fact that he'd taken the time to honor her entire family. That was the moment she knew she was marrying the right man. Same proposal, same goal. The difference was 4 hours of effort and a willingness to do the unexpected. Hardy's challenge for you at the end of the book is to find the places in your own life where you can go for wow-ow, where you can do a little more than the job requires, where you can send the unexpected thank you note, where you can show up in person when an email would have done, where you can pay the invoice 3 days early, where you can remember the small detail nobody else would remember. Because in a world where most people are doing the bare minimum, the person who does just a little extra is no longer competing with the average. They're not even in the same race. And that's how the math works. A few extra reps, a little more than expected, done consistently, compounded over years. That is how ordinary people end up with extraordinary lives. Key takeaways. So let's bring this together. Because the compound effect is not a complicated book. It's actually a simple book that takes most of us a lifetime to understand. If you remember nothing else from the last 40 minutes, remember these 5 things. 1. The compound effect is always working. Whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, every small decision you make today, what you eat, what you read, what you scroll, who you spend time with, is quietly voting for the person you are about to become. There is no neutral. There is no pause. The math is running every single day. The only question is what direction it's running. 2. You take 100% responsibility. Not because everything is your fault, but because the moment you stop blaming, your power turns on. The traffic, the boss, the economy, the childhood, none of those things can stop you. But your story about those things absolutely can. 3. Willpower is a lie. What you actually need is why power. The plank between two burning buildings only gets walked when your child is on the other side. Until your reason is bigger than your resistance, you will keep starting and quitting. Find the real reason. Then the discipline becomes almost automatic. 4. Protect your inputs. The glass of your mind is open all day, and most of the world is actively trying to pour mud into it. The people you spend time with, the media you consume, the environment you live in. These 3 forces are shaping you whether you notice or not. Choose them deliberately, or they'll choose you. And 5. Everything you want is on the other side of the wall. The reps after 12, the mile after the goal, the extra effort after you've done what was expected. That's where the multiplying happens. The first 12 only got you to average. Average is not where your life changes. 5 ideas. Most people will hear them and forget them by tomorrow. A few of you will hear them and decide that tomorrow is the day everything starts to be different. That decision, the small one, the quiet one, the one nobody will applaud you for, is the most important choice you'll make this year, because the magic penny only becomes worth $10 million if you have the patience to wait through 29 days of looking like a fool. Closing. Remember the 3 friends from the beginning of this video? Larry, Scott, and Brad. Same neighborhood, same starting line, same 2.5 years, and by the end of it, one of them was 67 pounds heavier than another. One of them got promoted. One of them was exactly where he started, just more bitter about it. Here is the part of that story that Hardy never quite says out loud, but that I think is the whole point of the book. You are one of those 3 guys. Right now, today, you are already on one of those 3 paths. You don't get to opt out of the experiment. You're in it. The only thing you get to choose is which one of them you become. So I want to leave you with the question I think matters most. Look at the choices you've made in the last 30 days. The small ones. The ones you didn't think mattered. The cup of cereal. The extra hour on your phone. The text you didn't send to someone you love. The book you didn't open. The walk you didn't take. If you compounded those choices over 31 months, where would they take you? Be honest about the answer, because the answer is already on its way. If you want to go deeper with this book, I'd recommend grabbing a copy. Darren Hardy's writing is direct and personal in a way that this summary can only hint at, and the worksheets and exercises at the end of each chapter are genuinely useful if you sit down and do them. I'll drop links to the book and the audiobook in the description below. If this video gave you something to think about, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people. And if you're new here, subscribe. We're walking through one transformative book at a time, in deep detail, the way they were meant to be experienced. But more than anything, pick one thing from this video, just one, and start it today. Not Monday, not next month, today, because the compound effect is already running. Make it run in the direction you actually want to go. Thank you for spending this hour with me. I'll see you in the next one.